This
Matias linear keyboard.
it's not good.
Over the months, I had talked about getting a new keyboard and that I wanted the keyboard to have extremely light switches. Given I already played on relatively light ones, I was pretty interested to see how these switches would perform given they were 35 grams, which is 10 grams less than the keyboard I have currently. The switches I decided to try were Matias linears, and my keyboard of choice would be the KB Paradise V80 Vintage. There are some good things about this keyboard, but are sadly offset by the amount of unfortunate flaws it has. Right off the bat, the first time you play, you notice the keyboard is insanely quiet and then you barely have to touch the keys in order to activate them. Now this does seem good since it requires less effort, but it's a bit more complicated than you think. They also have a rubber-like feel, something that isn't necessarily common in mechanical keyboards, so that was interesting to me as well. Since they are so light, you can do certain things like trilling extremely well, but you lose a lot of control in two-hand trill heavy files. I found myself being able to handle handstream files quite well since I could hit the trills, but when it came to less one-hand trilly files that I would normally excel at, it felt very unnatural and I found myself missing quite a bit. Overall, your stamina isn't really affected that much in stamina files, but your control is definitely affected in certain situations. Mini jacks are insanely good on this thing. Right off the bat, I was getting brand new AA's I didn't think I would get in general, let alone so easily. This is because since the switches are so light and you can barely get away with hitting the keys at all, doing that quick mini jack motion will pretty much register the key every time. As for core jack files and anchors, I was getting pretty mixed scores with them as it's pretty dependent on the pattern more than anything. Speed and tech files were pretty solid as well, as streams and other quick bursts succeeded pretty nicely. However, I ran into numerous CV rushes not from a lack of reading or control, but purely from the lightness of the switch that would trigger double taps at times if I wasn't careful enough. Lastly on the skill set list, accuracy scores felt generally okay. I would suggest switching to a heavier switch keyboard if you are going to play accuracy because you can definitely hit early on accident given how light the switch is, and your control isn't going to be quite there either. I didn't notice that significant of a drop at all, but I did feel generally less comfortable overall compared to any other keyboard I've used. The worst thing about this keyboard is really what prevents me from playing on this keyboard anymore, and I more so blame the switch than anything, and that's durability. These switches simply do not last long at all. I played 4 or 5 sessions on it, and I have 4 keys that double tap already. I actually cannot type on this keyboard anymore without certain keys double or even triple tapping at times when I'm casually talking on Discord. I had to switch to the middle row after a few sessions as I ran out of key setups on the bottom row in less than a week. To be completely honest, I probably would have went through every key setup I possibly could have used in less than 2 weeks and would have nothing else to play on since I don't use the top row. Again, most likely not the keyboard's fault, but I do think these switches just simply aren't meant for these types of games. Overall, I do think this keyboard has some sort of potential, but it only seems to apply in certain situations, and you're pretty limited to the types of files you can play as a result. Matias linears bring to the table some of the most unique experiences I've ever had playing Eterna, but has too many shortcomings and lifespan for me to actively play on it. If the switches didn't give out so absurdly fast, I probably would have tried this keyboard out for a little longer, but after a little over a week, I simply could not play on it anymore. With that, I'm going to give these switches a solid 3 out of 10. Lastly, thank you to all my patrons for supporting the channel, and if you would like to do so yourself, feel free to check out my Patreon along with my other links below. I'll see you all in whatever video I upload next, and take care.